Guess what, folks? It's Wednesday. This is a workshop. Can only mean one thing. Yes, Workshop Wednesday is back. Hello, welcome to this week's edition. And in the couple of weeks since we filmed last little episode, you might have noticed there are some changes around here. Yes, a massive tidy up has been going on. Very special reason for that, which we will reveal shortly. But it's had a massive change around. So obviously lathe is still there, but the workbench that was across the back there by the storeroom has now moved. The Krypton machine is there. The workbench is there now, little sign up. It's really looking like a little old workshop here now. Yeah, we love it, except it's all going to move again because we are moving premises very shortly. So we'll bring you updates on that as well. Really exciting things happening here at the moment. Two more new arrivals in for sale as well in our sort of VA Classics side of the business. The Triumph Tiger Cub Sport, really nice restored bike there. This one is currently available. We do have to do a little bit of work though. It's had an engine rebuild and it's not yet run in. It's very tight, a little bit difficult to start, so we need to get that run in properly. Maybe just move some of this rubbish. The Cotton Trials, 1960, lovely, lovely restored bike. Isn't she beautiful? Currently available as well, it's online now. The restored two-stroke pump next to it as well. That is pending sold. Some new arrival signs, including this lovely new Hudson bicycle sign. Still a little bit of work going on with the MG beside us here. You can see our massive garage sign is now up on the wall. We've also got the Ascot sign up on the wall here as well now, and the Goodyear tyres sign, which is sold to a client. That's Mr. B is having that one. We will go and show you the pumps that we featured in last week's video as well in a moment. So these are the Bowser electric panels just stood here in the corner. This is a blue undercoat. Here just painted up in the blue undercoat. These need to be flatted down. They cleaned up really well. We've got a couple of choices of colours here. See if you can guess what brand this one's going to be. I'm really looking forward to seeing this one finished actually. This is the new CH1 pump, the new arrival that we mentioned recently. Really nice pump, really good condition. Everything works as it should. See the dial going around there. It's got its little toggle down here to lock the handle. Yeah, really lovely, lovely pump. Such good condition. The base is black enamel as well. That's enamelled like a sign would be. That's a bit unusual. So I mentioned everything going off to the Sandblasters last week. Well, it went to the Sandblasters and it has come back. And obviously straight away we needed to get some primer onto these items to stop them rusting. I didn't manage to film that, I'm afraid. It was a bit of a rush, but I'm going to show you these now. So these are the Vickers panels for the big octagonal shell pump. As you can see, there's quite a lot of damage and wastage, as we would call it. Rotten metal, it's all pitted, pinholed everywhere, so we need to do quite a bit of work to restore this barrel. Interestingly, it looks like it has been made on a folding machine. Well, the beading hasn't lifted. The door, which in effect is the thinner material, has pushed out away from it, so it's still held in well on the rivets. We'll just warm that up and heat that, beat that back into shape. This is the area that we marked off for the dates that are hand painted inside. As you can see, that survived well. You can just see around the edges where the paint is a little bit matte. That again is where the media had managed to penetrate underneath the tape, lifted the edges of the tape a little bit, but that's why we went oversized. The main area we wanted to protect has been preserved. We can sand the edges and blend those with the primer. Really nice on the handle here. We've got a crisp detailing all around the edge. There's a little bit of paint still remaining in the corners that we need to remove, but that can be done by hand. The main thing is we haven't disturbed the rivets and damaged anything. You can see I taped this up to preserve the main part of the handle. We've got a little bit at the top here as well of damage. This is where the door has just banged open all the time, open or closed. It's been hitting something there that over the years has flattened the metal on the surface. We'll grind this back, build up this edge with weld and put it back to the right shape. So the other parts that we have down here as well are for our client Mr. B, who's having the Goodyear sign as well. This is the Bowser Century, Red Century pump. This one is being done into Dominion colours and branding. So all the parts here have come back from the blaster. As you can see down here, we just need to remove some items as well, such as the sight glass. These are perspex. It had been restored for the Donington Museum in the past, this particular pump. So little bits have been done to it. Door was bolted shut, hence the panel at the back here has these nuts welded in as fixings. We need to strip down the main body of the pump as well so we can get the actual plunger out. Obviously the shroud for the top needs a little bit of work as well. That's a thin aluminium. The gauge holder top part with the handle on, that's cleaned up really nice. We need to make a new wooden handle. So you'll notice everything has a red hue to it. Now this is a wash primer. It came straight back from the blaster. Obviously we need to protect this as quickly as possible. So this is an etch primer we just threw on. That's just a thin coating to stop it all rusting up, because then it would be pointless getting it blasted. What next? What am I doing? Doing some blasting. Come with me. Just a quick stop off on the way into the workshop to look at the blasting we're doing for the Aston Martin pump. This is also part of that. You may remember we had some issues with the paintwork on this one. Well, this has been resprayed again. We've still had some issues, but that's looking much better. We don't have the damp blisters now coming through that paint. This was sandblasted, taken right back to bare metal and started again with. There's a lot of money gone into the paint on this one. So here we are back in the workshop and we have these little panels. These are the brand panels, or brand inserts as they're called, that sit above the dial face, the gauge part of the sort of 1950s, 60s era electric pumps. So you've got a small square panel that lights up. Obviously it won't light up at the moment because it's got a load of gold leaf gilded onto it. And if I turn it around, that's what it's going to become. Super! We're sandblasting this to blast etch the glass, but it won't obviously blast where we've got the writing. So that's reverse vinyl decal on there in effect, which you could have straight onto the glass, but we want to give an extra effect to it as well. We've also got a little logo there, which is a stencil purchased pre-made that we've just glued on, and hopefully the blasting will go through that and leave a little logo as well. So let's have a look at this. We'll just tap that off. You can see it's blasting away the gold leaf that isn't protected quite well. If we turn it over, there we go, you can start to see the effect coming through. Where it's glued down, we have got glue residue there that needs to be got rid of as well. So this takes a little bit of work. Just gently, gently. Okay, so I'm back outside now. I've just finished blasting in the cabinet. I've finished those glasses. I'm going to keep them hidden for a minute so you'll see the completed article when it's finished. But they've come out really nicely. There's a little bit of repair to the gold leaf to do, but it's always the case. Like we showed you with the Vickers pump, the blast media does lift the edges of masking a bit, so it's always a little bit difficult when you're masking areas and trying to blast round and get a really crisp line. So we will need to just touch up some areas with the gold leaf. But now I'm going on to the Bowser today. While we've got some good weather and it's dry, I want to get this body of the pump stripped down, get that plunger out. So, undoing these nuts here, remove the bottom from there, and we'll be able to get inside that, which also then means that we can remove all of this part and take the rod out that's in there. That's all brass. We don't want to paint that, we want to polish it. So guys, we've now got this Bowser pulled apart, the main body of the pump here. As you can see, we've undone these bolts, undone these nuts here. It's removed the rods out from there, which is actually a good thing. We can put that all back together a bit easier. This barrel could come off now, but we're not going to take it off. We're going to leave it in situ because we don't need to polish this one. It's all hidden inside a base. So on skeleton pumps we would do a high polish on that. So we've just taken this off, Taking those rods out, knock this casting off with a soft mallet, just gently, evenly all the way around. That has allowed us to pull this plunger out. Now that is, the rack has had to be removed from the top of that. Now that's the part that basically you turn the handle, the gear winds against that, lifts it up and down. You can see there's a leather washer on there and a valve system that draws the fuel up and siphons it up from the tank below. So that's now come out. We can do some polishing and cleaning up of that, and we can remove this large retaining nut here as well. We've also managed to remove the sight glass front here, revealing the little propeller here that goes around, showing you that the fuel is flowing. We can see on this little cover plate here there's some old repairs that have come to light, and a bit of welding in there, a couple of little pinholes. We'll just do a little bit of tidying and dressing on that and repair that. I forgot to show you this earlier. If I just show you this barrel for the Vickers pump, this is the body here. These are the lines or ribs that I was talking about earlier. You can see them where it's been blasted now, just in the sunlight, and you can really feel them if you run your hand over. I've also just balanced these side closing plates for the Avery Aston pump on here and just sprayed those white this afternoon, and left them to dry in the sun. And with the white paint on the inside, again, really highlights all the little lines and the steps. So this hasn't been rolled, this has been folded up, and that would have been a really time-consuming process. Hi guys, so you're joining me again today on a wet and windy day. We've lost the sunshine that we had earlier in the week. It's gone really cold and wet again. But we are here finishing off the Aston Martin pump. Now, those glass panels that you saw us etch blasting earlier, these are done. Here you go, let me get them. You can... Careful, Doug. Hey, there we go, what do you think of that? So it's kind of worked, it's not too bad. When they're lit up they'll look even better. You can see the light coming through there a little bit. So I'm going to fit these into the panels. I fitted the main fascia glass on one of these panels. I just have the top brand panel left to go in. So that's what we're going to do now. This pump is actually being delivered tomorrow to the customer. So we've got to get it finished, cleaned up, final polish over and built ready to go in the van this evening. Some of the parts here just laid out. I'm using the MG as a makeshift workbench, and we've got these little closing plates here that go in either side of the window. That's obviously the main frame for the window, brand panel frame there. I've had some nuts and bolts in these pots. We've got all our little screws and washers and tools. We've also done a decal on this. This is the preset knob, goes in there and shows up in the window. You can preset the gallons that you wanted to deliver, 5 gallons, 10 gallons, etc. And the pump would automatically cut out when it reached the preset amount, hence preset knob. Obviously that little cover plate goes on the side of the pump here. This is where that little hole is, and these screw fittings. So that just goes over there. Behind that sits the little wheel with the numbers on, and you wind it around to find the correct number of gallons you wanted to deliver, or you just wind it right up to, I think it's 20 gallons it goes to, for the maximum delivery in one go. So we need to lay this little neoprene cord into the frame here. That acts as a little cushion and a seal against the glass, and then the glass sits in like that. There we go. So it's just a little rain seal and a cushion there for the glass when that's fitted. We do sell that on our website as well. If you're restoring an Avery hard oil pump and you need the little beaded seal that goes in there, we sell lengths of this. Just keep a hand on that for a second. And the bottom of the glass just gets pinched on the panel there. You could lift it up a bit, and the top gets trapped by this strip here. So that is now just secured enough that I can let go completely and sort out the rest of the screws. going to go a little bit oversized with the washers on these corners as well, just to make sure that's definitely got the glass caught, so there's no risk of it falling out. You can see that it's got these little pins here on this top frame. These locate it into the panel of the pump. The lower window frame has a couple of bolts in the bottom that it just sits against, and this catch at the top, and that's the majority of that located. Okay, so time to fit the window frames and glass to this panel now. First thing we do on the main frame is to just fit the little closing plate at the bottom with these long BA screws, because that goes on first, and then that allows us to rest the frame inside on the panel like that. The little retainer at the top just purely to hold it in place for a minute. Okay, so that will hold the glass where we need it to be. Then we come in with our little fill strip and put that in around there to seal the glass. Okay, time to put the glass in. Make sure we get the right ones on the right sides. And there we are. So that's the window done. We've got all the side filler strips here. These just close the gap around the actual face of the dial itself in the pump, just so you don't get a gap, and the light comes down and lights up the front as well. They're in. Obviously I have to do the extra screws, but they're there. The fill strips in, the glass and the frame are now fitted and held in the panel. That's ready to go back on the pump once we've done the brand panel and the top. Same process as you saw us do on the other panel a moment ago, so I'll get those done and get them fitted. Okay, so I'm back in the main workshop, and you might notice behind me something looks a little bit different to how it did earlier in the video. Yeah, the Tiger Cub has a little bit of an issue. The other evening I had just finished working on the pump. I forgot to bring the camera out, but I thought I'd just spend an hour or two stripping this down to find out what was going on with it. Basically this arrived the other day as a restored bike, but we've had real difficulty getting it started and running. Here's how it looked the other day, and obviously you saw it on the little video as well. It was really tight. The engine was so tight that it was really hard to turn over. You certainly couldn't do it by hand pushing the kickstart, and you had to be jumping on it as if it was a much bigger 500cc bike. Something was not right. We had a look down in the bore and we spotted this. As you'll see, the piston is the 9:1 compression, because it is the sport model, and it's got a plus 20 thou piston. We assumed that that was oversized and maybe not honed into the bore properly, but stripping it down we found worse issues. As you can see here, look, that moves fairly easily. It has been cleaned up. It's obviously been a little bit rusty in there at some point. It's had some glaze buster or something chucked around in there to clean it up, so we might still need to have a look at this barrel and piston and replace it. But this is the problem here, right down in the depths of the engine. So here it is on the bench, and this is the crank. Now straight away you might be able to see what the problem is. That, I can't even push that. There you go. I can't do it one-handed. It's that stiff. That conrod is really bound up on the crank. So this is me here now with two hands. I've put the camera down. Look at that. Quite a bit of force there. I certainly can't move it. It doesn't even move with the weight of the crank on it. So something's not right in there. Obviously that's why it was so tight to try and turn the engine over. We had it running once for about 30 seconds to a minute and it stopped dead as if it had seized up. You could just about get it to turn over, but it was tight. So we knew there was an issue. Unfortunately, we bought this as a bike with an engine rebuild already carried out. You can see by the tank here beside me, and well, the picture of the bike. Beautiful restoration, absolutely stunning. We were hoping to have this one up for sale already, but alas, we need to go right through the engine again. So we'll be showing you this in another video when that goes back together. I thought I'd better show you this because you would wonder what it was doing here and why the bike had suddenly, in a few minutes from earlier in the video, all come apart. It was a couple of days ago. But what I am going to be doing here right now on the workbench is bits for the Aston pump. That is what we're working on at the moment. So I don't have one of those long retaining strips for the top of the brand panel window. I also don't seem to have a piece of aluminium long enough. So I'm going to make it up in 3 little sections. Now what I've done here is just cut out some tabs of aluminium, given them a quick whiz over with the grinder, and we're going to turn them into little tabs like that. We obviously need to drill a hole in them as well, but we can do that. So what I've got here is a little engineering block and the press tool for that. Now this would usually be used on our fly press, but that's outside at the moment because I can't get it in the workshop. So with a very gentle, small, this is one of my favourite hammers, copper soft head there, we're just going to line this up. Voila. So 2 little tabs there, that'll do for now. I'll get some holes drilled in them. Let's get them fitted to the pump, we can put the glass in. Just punched out a couple of little holes in these, so we've got a nice neat hole there, and I've just flattened them back out a little bit so we've got a shallower angle on them, and they will replicate this nicely. So we're just fitting the top globe holder and delivery arm section of the pump now. On the end here we have what's called the sight glass. A little spinner is already fitted in there, that's where you can see the fuel is actually pumping. Globe holder here, we've got the wiring to come up on the bulb holder. A little bit loose, you can see that, so we're just going to bolt this down and fit the delivery pipe on the inside as well. That just needs bolting in place. This pump has all the internals in it still. Although not functional, it is complete with all the parts it should have. Okay, right, that's the earth cable in. Remember, you always have to have an earth on these things because they are metal and they never had an earth originally. So we always fit earth points on all of our pumps, and it is PAT tested before delivery as well, which obviously is a legal requirement here in the UK. A little reminder, when you're rebuilding a petrol pump, always remember where the sight glass is and duck. Glad I'm wearing the hat. So we've just put this back together now. We've got the little fascias in there, the surrounds and the screws. So we're going to get these screw holes cleaned out. Now these are the little 1/4 inch UNC brass dome head bolts. These are the fixings. But not going to go in there because of the amount of paint in the threads. So voila, little tap, and we're just going to clean those threads out and get them ready to refit the screws. You can pretty much do it by hand because all you're doing is just cleaning paint from the threads. So that's pretty much it for today. We've got the Bowser here and that's coming along nicely. The parts all coming undone really well. We're going to get that into an epoxy primer this week as well. Same with the Vickers pump parts here. I'm going to start doing the welding work first. We're going to do all the fabrication and welding before we do any epoxy primer on this, just so that all the metal work is done and we can get that protective coating on afterwards once we've done all of that metal work. The Aston pump is being delivered at the end of this week as well, so hence I'm getting on with all little bits and pieces for that one. So I will try and show you that one this week before the end of the video, and you can see that now completed and ready to go to its new home.